Welcome to Africa Speaks of today. My name is Stephen Malindra, and I do hope, as usual, you always have a wonderful time, whether over the weekend or whether during the week. And now here in the UK, the summer is coming back again. We thought we were approaching winter and was due to come, but things have turned out differently. Now the weather is back. Now, what is happening in today's program? A lot. And it's very, very interesting. And I want you to pay your attention to my guest today, because he's a very interesting person and very wisely well informed. Now, what's happening in Gabon, Burkina Faso, Niger, all former French colonies with one thing in common: they are all under military rule. Why? Military coups are not unique in Africa, but the past 20 years they have occurred in mostly the former French colonies. Why? That's the question. And what's part of it all? All of them have denounced France. Some have been expelled French citizens in their countries. Again, why? Why is there so much animosity against France in these countries? Is the African continent waking up to its former colonial masters and saying that we have had enough of you? These are some of the questions that we're going to try and answer in today's program. My guest today is Mr. Alex Dive-Disinge, a lawyer by profession and also a leader of the British Cameroon National Party here in the UK. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. It's a pleasure to be on your program for the very first time. And it's always a pleasure to talk about Africa, a continent that I'm proud to talk about. But unfortunately, things have not been going the way
they're supposed to be. The way they're supposed to go.
I'm happy to be on the program tonight. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, as I said earlier on, there's so many military coups. There have been so many military coups in Africa. Nigeria has had about 10. Senegal, Ghana has had about 11, and then Sierra Leone has had about 10. So many other African countries. But what's making the coups in the Franco-speaking countries unique or different is that they all have animosity against France. Why?
The problem is I don't really look at just the coup. I try to look at the external and internal dynamics of this coup, because we can sit here and talk just about the inevitability. Why do we have coups in Africa, and why don't we have it in Europe? That's the way I would like to approach it. I'll start by telling you that in Europe, most military people, they are officers, and if you try to talk about politics, you might lose your job. And they sworn their allegiance to the constitution, not to a person. So that's the difference there. So they know that you come as prime minister, president, 4 years, you're gone. So they don't care. As a military person, you have to work maybe for your entire life. So that's the difference, unlike in Africa. Why I also accept, when you look at the internal dynamic, African people, they are either losing faith from their government today, from what is happening. You can tell that either the government is not meeting their needs. Then when you look at French African countries, again, the external dynamic, what is happening in Africa, it's the French, like you see what happened to Burkina Faso, Niger, some countries. French and America, they are the one training these military people. Before in Africa, military was about stability and order. Today it's about war. Ever since America declared war on terrorism now, these people have got a different way of looking at things.
But look at it from this angle. Nigeria had coups, Uganda had a couple of coups, and there have been other coups in other parts of Africa. But the other parts of you are looking at the English-speaking countries, where the first thing that most of the military leaders who have laid in the English countries have always run to the English, for help. Nigerian leaders, Ghana leaders, all those who took over, they look more. They never denounced Britain. They never did anything, because even money was good from there. But the difference with these coups is that they're denouncing France. They even expelled French people in their countries. That is where the difference is coming in.
You are right. What I will tell you, I always tell people, the France Afrique, a name that was coined by President Houphouët-Boigny, the late president of Ivory Coast. The French never left
Africa. They never did. Yeah.
But the British, to a greater extent, they left.
Yeah.
So when you see, I will say this example, although we are talking about, like, I'll go look at the CEMAC and the ECOWAS French African.
Yeah. Francos, yeah.
What is happening with them is that before they had an independence, a country example like Cameroon, which is the same with Niger and other French African countries, they signed what they call French Cooperation Agreement. And that French Cooperation Agreement, Article 6, example, I'll use example for Cameroon.
I'm talking as a lawyer completely now.
Article 6 made it clear that France would determine the political, economic and sociocultural orientation of Cameroon, which is the same like Niger, Burkina Faso and other countries. It says France shall manufacture the money of all these countries, this France Afrique, and that is still happening. Then it says France shall determine the education of these countries. It's still happening. Then they say France will have priority
over the
exploit minerals, strategic minerals. So some people argue that is not true. Where is our money in France, Africa, in France? And that money was created in France in 1945 when those countries they were not even independent. So that is the problem. Then when it comes to education now, they have what they call ENAM. It was created in France in 1945 by General Charles de Gaulle. Administration and magistracy. So in French country, you don't have like civilian judge. You go to ENAM, 2 years you become a judge with no experience. And they try civilians in a military tribunal which was created in France in 1793. So we in African countries, we have all those archaic institutions is still there. France is no longer using those institutions. We have the gendarme, which is a French police. They use force. Unlike the English country, they use police who they are more civilian. The gendarme was created in 1791 in France. So we are still using those things that Napoleon Bonaparte used to use. So that's what's happening today in Africa when it comes to us.
Was it, when you look at it, another theory which was being put forward is that the French never educated most of their former French colonies. They never put a lot of educational institutions there. Whereas the British put so many schools in the areas, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Uganda, wherever they went, they put a lot of schools there. You can find church schools, you can find normal schools built by the government. The French never did this. Maybe that part of that educational structure. Now the world has become a global village. People's eyes are opening up. And they're standing up and saying, no, we don't want this anymore. Is that part of that?
To an extent, I will look at this way. If you look at the United Nations Charter, Article 76B, it says countries, the trusteeship countries that are not able to govern themselves, that they don't have the Shaka Zulus, they don't have Africans, people who are capable. That is why we colonize you, to promote educational, social, and whatsoever for self-government and independence. That is what they said. But if you look, that was what United Nations was created, I presume, was in 1945. But if
after the end of the Second World War.
If you look at back at 1884, Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck, organized the Berlin Conference to partition Africa with the resources among themselves, the Europeans. So my point is, how come that in 1884 you have already partitioned us? Then you are saying in 1945, countries that cannot govern themselves. So all these things it's something that it's the making of the West. I can blame us to their internal factors, which I can blame us. But unfortunately, if you look back, I say, the question I asked, why is it that we don't have coups mostly in the Western country? We used to have it in, is it 1930 in Spain?
In Spain.
They used to have those things. The Eastern European country used to have, during the Cold War, they used to have these coups. Do you know why? Because those ones were propagated, Russia was the one promoting it. But modern day Western country, we don't have a coup. So the coups in Africa are being sponsored by the West.
Yes. I don't want to disagree and I don't want to agree, because if people see, like, for example, the Burkina Faso, when they explained, they said, well, we got rid of the civilian government because of what we saw was not really happening in the country. The corruption, of course, they mentioned a number of other things, but they didn't actually, those behind it, simply it was a question of looking at the country and seeing that the country is heading in the wrong direction. That is what has always been happening. But when you say sponsorship, yeah, could you elaborate more on that?
I have evidence. There's someone who was called Jacques Foccart.
Okay.
Jacques Foccart was an African minister which was protecting French interests since the days of General de Gaulle.
All right.
Jacques Foccart was the second most popular person in France because he was doing covert operation in Africa and he was involved in a lot of coups.
Yeah.
So in those days, in the early 60s, you have a lot of coups which was masterminded by France. And I would like to say more about
the reason why I'm a bit skeptical about that is that some of them, most of them, have denounced France, and most of them have even gone out to even get rid of the French citizens, nationalization and all that. If they are behind, France is behind, then they would have supported France. They would have,
let me tell you something. It's a historical thing. Listen, when you come and denounce France, do you know, is it President Bouzid?
Yeah.
The French president is calling him every day. Every day. He's there. He stated it that he's talking with him, but he's under house arrest.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter. This thing, the problem is, it is, I look at it like an old wine in a new bottle. Most of those coup leaders, there's only one military person I could have trusted and swear my life was Thomas Sankara.
Yeah,
because when he came, you saw the reform. Okay, fine. Recently in Gabon, what are these people saying? That the election was not free and fair. Okay, if you believe it was the opposition who won it, hand it to the opposition.
And the power.
They are there to be in power too. So it doesn't make me smile. Unfortunately, the people are losing faith to the current civilian government because in Africa, we think democracy is about what? Elections. Democracy is more than election. It's about separation of power, independent judge, and to have an independent legislature. We, like, I always go where I know more, from Cameroon. We have an Anglophone problem. They have never debated it in parliament.
Okay.
The parliament are rubber stamp parliament. I don't know, you should correct me, you might know this. I read something some years ago. That when Idi Amin came, he suspended the parliament for 8 years and controlled the country. If that is true, it means you can run the country without those parliament.
He did suspend parliament, and obviously he wouldn't allow elections. He suspended parliament. Parliament was never there, and he went on to rule anyway by,
How do you? It's about still French interests. I'll give you an example. Why should the de facto? I call Macron. Macron is the de facto president of 14 African countries. Okay. Why should you leave your country and rush to Chad to install a military leader? Mr. Biya was the first person who was congratulating the new leader. The constitution was clear.
Yeah, that's the point. The president of Cameroon.
The constitution was clear that if the president is not incapacitated, the person who should take power should be the president of Senate, if I'm not mistaken. So why the coup? And then they have this song, all of them. What they have? Transitional government. What are you transitional from a python to a snake? I don't know that. Because what they need to do is, in their position, you should call a constituent assembly to draft a constitution that will not favor even you. Because from my understanding, when they say about that transitional government, then they will remove the uniform. We have had them even in English-speaking African countries where Buhari removed his uniform, Obasanjo removed his uniform. These people don't have good faith.
Okay.
The problem is that, as we always say, these people, they cannot do that in, North Korea. We in Africa, we don't have nuclear weapons, so they can manipulate and do whatever they want to do. And they can protect you. Like I was saying, in 1960, this guy, the president of Gabon, was Liomba. He was overthrown. And we moved in power. What happened? France had this cooperation agreement that I'm talking about. So the deputy was installed in power. Then France the new government, the coup plot rather, they promised, they said, look, we are going to be pro-France. But because France signed an agreement before independence with Gabon, so they have to overthrow those coup plotters and put Liomba back in power.
Okay.
But unfortunately, today they cannot do those things because our eyes are all open, because those things are still there.
I still need, there are other players. There are other players now. The world has moved on. As I said, it's a global village. The Chinese are here. The Russians are here. And in a recently, Cameroon President Paul Biya traveled to France. So he traveled to Russia and was seen shaking hands, obviously, with the Russian president. And then, of course, the Burkina Faso and Mali and Gabon, they were all in Russia during that, the Russia-African summit. These people never used to go to Russia. But now, China is coming. And Russia is coming in because they all have different needs. That's why the French and the English and the Western side of the West is so worried about it. Because now the other players who can come in, the Turkish can come in, the others can come in. It's not only the West. The West used to dictate. It's no longer dictating in Africa. How do you see that? Because Paul Biya will never have gone to Russia.
It is beautiful to have competition that is good for the interest of all people. But when you see these African leaders, some of them, they are called 50 of them in the same room. President Ruto of Kenya said, if we don't go there, they threaten us. So they are schoolboys to me. They are not, yes, to me, they're schoolboys, they are not president. Because we keep on using the word sovereignty. We are sovereign. Sovereignty means authority. Have they got that authority to say no? Independence means you have that power to say, oh, I can make decisions for myself. Can they do it? No. So all those words, sovereignty, independent, national integrity, they are window-dressing exercise.
You don't agree that the coming in of the Chinese and the Russians have an impact? Because if it didn't have an impact, then Paul Biya would never have gone to Russia. The Burkina Faso and Mali and all the other former Franc countries, this was their first time to go to Russia on this Franco-Russian summit. You know, and in this day and age, when there is a war going on, you know, there is that royalty now that they are pledging to the Russians, which the West is watching.
Do you know that?
You get my point, yeah?
I get your point, but do you understand that the West, including Russia, they will never fight each other? Do you know that? So why you know it's true, they know they have nuclear weapons. If they have to fight each other, they will destroy each other. So they went there, yes. Good speeches. Colonial this. So what did they come back with? They go behind the scene, they still talk. But I'll give you an example, Gabon. They will not tell us that they are going to raise the pay for the military. The man who is there have been supporting a criminal, because I look at Ali Bongo as a criminal. He has been stealing people's money. While people are dying in the street, money was in the road. If it was in China, Malaysia, Singapore, death penalty. But that is what they have been doing. These people are criminals. They are not president. I call most of them, they say a government. A government could be a criminal syndicate. If Pablo Escobar would have taken over in Colombia, he's a criminal, he would have been the president. So we should be careful when we use that word government, because the word government is to govern your people, is to protect them, security and other things. So while I agree, as an African, I look at myself, must we always go outside for people to come and help us? The wood that we have we not trained for the last 60 years enough engineers? Have we not trained a lot of people who can manufacture those things in Africa to mine diamond, uranium? How can they say France, is it Niger, supplies 80% of electricity in France? Then they have 20%. Do we hate ourselves? We are living in that position that
Listen, I'll go to an issue of ECOWAS. ECOWAS. It worked in the Gambia, and President what's his name, Jamal.
He was an erratic person.
Yahya Jammeh wanted to leave. He didn't want to leave power. In the end, ECOWAS forced him out. Now I'm looking at, they've given deadlines to Gabon and all the others not to, because then hand power to the civilian law. Do you look at them ECOWAS being a success in this issue? Do you think they can?
To me, I might say,
you don't have trust in
I say based on conjecture, when you look at Tinubu, what happened, the election, Nigerian population, you look at it, this is fixed. He says it's my turn, and his turn is his turn. So when I look at most of these people, to be honest, I don't really believe in what they are doing. What's ECOWAS? We are African Union. And one, if you ask most Africans, we are afraid to rewrite our history. Colonialism was a crime against humanity. It was illegal. As I speak to you now, there are some people in my country who are from Cameroon, who are in Nigeria. There are people in Chad who was there. These people came and divided us in this their faith. That's why they are so smart. If you see somebody who fly over the seas and go and meet other people in Africa and what is happening today, we Africans, I'm just saying, how often, I don't know, correct me again if I'm wrong, I've never seen the president of Uganda comes to Cameroon or Paul Biya go to Uganda. Why do we always go to this foreign Western country without talking about ourselves? Charity begins at home.
Exactly.
Because recently, the only good thing about this coup plotter, although I'm not in support of military regime, is that they are threatening to attack Niger. Burkina Faso say, I'm with you. Mali say, I'm with you. Algeria say, I'm with you. So that is the difference. That is positive. But however, these people, they should tell us when they have to hand over the country to the people. What I'm calling all the military leader, we need a constituent assembly elected for people to sit and draft a constitution. The job of the military is to protect the country for external fault, not to come and sit and draft a constitution. And I saw the new president, is it Brice Ndema? He was saying that, I swear on the charter. Who drafted that charter? Who drafted the charter? They just sit in a room and drafted the charter and swore, then they are neglecting the people. While we agree that the bongos have not been good, he is not better, he's just an old wine in a new bottle.
Yeah, but the thing is, everything has to have a beginning. I wasn't I was very positive when Idi Amin came. He became negative when he ruled for 8 years, and there was a lot going on. He had to go because the way the country had gone, But at the same time, when people come in, they bring in new ideas. They bring in whatever happens afterwards, and then they stay longer. Then it becomes more difficult because, as we were saying with the charter and so on, if there can be a kind of like the way ECOWAS is trying to do, and we have that really in the East African community as well, these regional bodies might be a way forward. To me, that's how I feel. The regional bodies are a way forward because if something is going wrong in your country, and someone can say, hey, get that thing out off your chest and listens to you, then you will also listen to him next time. So the problem now, still, we have the blame game in Africa. Can we try and deal with the regional, use the regional bodies as a structure that we build?
As a libertarian and somebody who takes things outside the box. You say everything have a beginning. We started existing before they colonized us. We Africans constructed the pyramid more than 4,000 years ago. So our life did not start when they colonized us. That's the mistake a lot of Africans are doing. Mali, Timbuktu, they were one of the richest countries in the whole world. My point now is what have made us to go backwards? The first writing, everything was in Africa. And Africa is called the mother of all continents. The Europeans came from Africa. You can go and verify. They came from Africa. Everybody came from Africa. So my point is, I don't want to go to that thing, we are colonial, we are a new country. Dubai was constructed under 50 years. Qatar had independence 7 years. Singapore was at par with Nigeria, Cameroon in 1960. What is wrong with us?
So you're going back to the same thing. Everything has to start somewhere. I want to come to you now. You're a leader of a political party. Cameroon is divided. Cameroon, your country, is divided into two. There's the English side and there's the French side. Now, Ambazonia, as an organization that is trying to work out a separate state from Cameroon, how would you, if you're made president of Cameroon, how would you solve the issue of Amazonia and the divisions that are existing between the French and the English?
I will make it clear that my party looks at things in a legal way.
Okay.
There's no country like Amazonia. There's a country like former British Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, West Cameroon.
But they want to call themselves Amazonia.
Listen.
Yeah.
If you don't have something you call yourself, nobody can challenge me for saying I'm British Cameroonian, West Cameroonian, or Southern Cameroonian.
Yeah.
When you have had that country, you can change the name. Mr. Biya did not change the name of Federal Republic to United Republic to La République du Cameroon. He did it when he was in power.
Okay.
So the difference between me and Amazonia is that we do things in a legal way. Why do you go around harassing people, killing your own people, when the Constitution of Cameroon says you can create a political party? Article 65 of the Cameroon Constitution says the preamble is part and parcel of our Constitution, which we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 18, Article 19 says you have a right of political opinion. So there are groups that have been existing in Southern Cameroon National Council in the early 90s, Southern Cameroon Youth League. I was the public relations officer, treasurer, spokesperson in the early 1990s. So why don't you use that means and take most of the members of parliament?
Okay.
And then you tell them, I've got the mandate, this is my political opinion. Rather than going around and breaching the Geneva Convention, lockdown, attacking civilians, attacking hospitals, killing people. I call it armchair politics because I sit abroad and do those things.
Okay, the question is, how would you solve that problem?
How will I solve the problem?
Because if that's the case,
a lot of people who are from the French part, they buy my idea. Because what I'm telling them that we have equal status, not special status. Okay. Two countries came together, and the definition of a country is what? A population, political authority, and a territory. So Southern Cameroon was a country. Okay. French Cameroon was a country. Yeah. The problem is, in the words of the first vice president of Federal Republic of Cameroon, John Bufonja, he said that the English-speaking Cameroon have been annexed. It is there on YouTube. So the English-speaking Cameroonians, they have annexed us in the sense that when you go, what they are using, the ENAM is something that they got from France, an institution. École Normale Supérieure is something that they got from France in the France CFA. You see, if you go 300 years ago, England and France, they decided to go on the Act of Union. They decided to come together. We can read it. So you cannot come together. I'm using shillings. You're using France CFA. You have different institutions. They have unelected governors. They have a legal system that you try people in the tribunal. All I'm telling you that, and most of the French-speaking Cameroonians, they support what I'm saying. We have equal status. Use your French institution in your own side and allow us to use our liberal institution in the English side. Equal status. Scotland is about how many million? They are small. But they respect them. They are Scotland. Have they ever changed the name of Scotland 300 years ago? No. So why do you keep on changing the name? La République du Cameroon is bearing the name that they had in 1960 when they had independence. That's their name. So where is British Cameroon? It has disappeared. That's annexation. It's an English word. Annexation, I'm not the one saying it. When you take another part of a country and dissolve it inside, it's called annexation. It's English language. Mr. Biya himself said they tried to assimilate us and he failed. So if you fail, why don't you just solve it? It's there in Quebec. Scottish people have their own parliament. Northern Ireland have their own parliament. The Flemish in this. We can copy. It's already existing. It's not a rocket science.
Is it money? Is it money then? Because if money doesn't come in, because this is what Africa's problem has always been. If the money doesn't spray down, I mean, you're talking about English, Scotland, Northern Ireland. There's a lot of money that goes to those parliaments, of course, to help in the development in those areas. And they even questioned if the money, said, look, if the money doesn't come, they'll do that. But is there money flowing from the main parliament to
there's no parliament, it's a rubber stamp. We have a non-functioning government. In Cameroon, it's my country. I will criticize your policy. We have a non-functioning government. There's no government. I saw people yesterday in a road called Tiko Douala Road, an accident. No police officer, no fire brigade, nobody. People just live. It's a non-functioning government, what we call kakistocracy.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in Cameroon. Nobody cares about it.
Really?
There's no light. I was there December and November.
Okay.
People don't have light. They don't have water. When I was going, we had water.
Yeah.
The first time I traveled from one of the English part of Cameroon to go to the other part, I took a plane from an airport, Tico International Airport. I landed, I was a baby, landed at my mom's village in Balinyonga. Today we don't have those things. We have power, we have everything. Cameroon was better off in 1970 than today. The law of diminishing marginal return is facing the country.
Yeah.
But people, because we don't understand where the money, it's not only Cameroon, the other African countries we have been talking about.
Yeah.
And recently they say in Niger, this French company, they're mining the uranium, but you see there's nothing. It's the same all over the African countries. I call it self-hate. We hate ourselves. That's what I look at it. It's self-hate. You cannot hate your own self. When our presidents are sick, when you don't go to the hospital, but you are in the position to construct hospital. So I've never seen us Africans, we hate ourselves. That's how I look at it. Because when you're there, you work for people and leave a good legacy. And I will tell you, Sankara was a genius. When I look what he was trying to do about women's rights, that young boy, I could not believe it. And I don't see nobody wants to follow it. I understand these people, they come and talk about what they're going to do. I want to see action. If you want to change the country, don't use that word transitional. We are the core, everybody in the country, all the talents, let's come, let's sit down. How can we fix our country? And again, it's difficult when you see, to me, I always look at both ways. These people like France, when you try to double cross them, they finish you. What happened to Ali Bongo is not a mistake. We cannot stand there. And that's why all the other government, I'm sure, presume Uganda, Rwanda, Cameroon, they have been reshuffling the military. Because these people, you can't trust them. And to go back to one question that you asked me before, you talk about that there's competition, there's China, there's Russia. They're doing that competition because they cannot rely anymore on one partner. You don't know who is your friend anymore.
That's what I'm saying. That's what, of course. But what I'm looking at with that is that as time goes by, and the way things are, because you can't rely on France. France used to be reliable to the French countries. Now the key thing, as they said even here, London School of Economics, they were releasing. They've been studying a lot about African affairs. They were saying, look, the French government should have known years ago that whatever money, as they were, been collecting from Africa, time will come and that money is no longer coming. Algeria stopped it years ago when it came up, and Morocco and all these other top countries who were from our French colonies, they stopped. They said, no, we're not going to give you any more money anymore. So what I'm saying, because there are other players who have come into the field now, there is that element of saying, oh yes, I think we can deal with the Chinese, we can deal with the Americans, we can deal with the Chinese, we can deal with with the Russians, or we can even deal with the Japanese, so that somewhere along the way, you are no longer the chief player. That could be what is affecting the economies of the West. That is why I needed your opinion on that.
I know what you're saying, but as somebody who thinks outside the box, Mr. Steve, when you look at, we need Chinese, we need these people, we need that. The Chinese to the economy, they are getting something.
Of course.
What I believe in, I believe in Africa. I believe in what they call comparative cost advantage. South Africa, are you good at manufacturing car? Okay, let's African allow South Africa. Is it Ivory Coast, you're good at cocoa, we give it to you. Nigeria, you're good at this, you comparative cost advantage. So when we do that, then we should keep the money in Africa. We don't need to go out.
The difference between what you're saying is good. It's a good advice. Even the Ghanaian president, Kofi Odo, when he was here last year, I think he mentioned something similar to that, which was quite good. But the thing is, you look at leaders who have a different vision of their countries. And besides, money goes in a different way. Because if Ghana is trying to do something with Nigeria, and there won't be much money exchanging hands, the Nigerians probably rush to the British for pounds or dollars. They won't be coming to Ghanaians for cocoa or something like that. They will want a finished product somewhere different. Because also, look at
what the Indians did.
No?
to send people. I'm sure Ghana was doing the same, Cameroon, all other African countries. They send people on scholarship. And the people that they send from Cameroon from scholarship, some of them are my friends, they are here. Why should you spend taxpayers' money to educate people, then they end up working for Monzoos? So why were you doing it? My point is, technology is what? Technology is engineer. Okay, if you cannot do that today, former President Amadou Ahidjo, when he became president, he asked Cameroonians who are all over to come back home. That's something that Mr. Biya is not doing, and Mr. Biya was part of the diaspora and his government. So why can't you say, we have engineers who are Cameroonians, we have people working in NASA. Instead of you earning this money, come back home, I will give you a land, a house, then you work for us, make the biggest factory where you can produce malaria. One thing that saddens me as I speak all my life, these people in Europe, they don't have mosquito. They are making our malaria Africa. So you don't have doctors, you have been trained. Okay, 60 years of independence. Let's say we started there. What is difficult to send people to? My uncle, late Dr. Wanula, he studied in Edinburgh Hospital there in 1948. He became a medical doctor. He named me Alex. He had a hospital in Cameroon, private, and a clinic. So if he could study in 1948 as an individual, so for, let's say, the independence time, so this government, how long does it take to train an engineer to cut diamond or to take timber to make sofas? That when you hear the Chinese people, you go to Dreamland, they will say it's coming in 3 weeks. Where is that the sofa coming from? From China. Where's our mobile phone coming? They make it. There is the Western people who are make it. So how can we not invite the Western people to come to Africa and produce those things so our people should have jobs? So it's a win-win situation. But to be honest, it's a conspiracy theory drafted by myself. These people like to keep our people poor so that they should continue governing.
Which people? The Western people or
No, our leaders.
Our leaders. Well, you could say that. You could say that. But then remember that there are private people in Africa. There are millionaires in Africa who could also be doing a lot in their village. One person, I can tell you, I was reading about... hang on. There's a footballer called Mane.
I know Mane.
Yeah, he used to play for Liverpool. Now he plays for a German club. I think it's Bayern Munich or another German club. But what this one person did in his village is unbelievable.
Where did he get the money from?
Of course he was playing. He was playing football. Yes. But what I'm saying, to have the heart to take it, they're millionaires. They're African millionaires who are living in Europe.
He went to America and did this. This is your private business.
What I'm saying is that they're African millionaires who are living in Europe. Without the same, who could easily have done what money has done.
I know you are the one asking the question. If you have money now, let's say go and invest in Saudi Cameroon, will you go and invest? When there is problem there, people want stability. People want to know what's going on in the next future. If you go to a country that you don't see the president, sometimes you see him on TV, you go and do things. No, they want stability, they want certainty. You won't put your money somewhere where you don't know if you're going to get something there. That's what I'm just saying. So we are not refusing. Senegal have been stable. That's where money came from for some time. I don't know 100% if I'm wrong. Somebody will correct me. Eto'o wanted to do something sometime in Cameroon because he went to Gabon to do it because of there's a lot of bottleneck in Cameroon. If you want to, we don't look at things like, Mr. Stephen wants to come and invest. It's not by asking you to pay them bribe before you do the thing. So you're stopping investment, unlike in the UK. If I say, I want to create a job, they do it very fast because when you're stopping unemployment, then you know the government, they think the people, they don't bother about the people. I was there. I have videos, I saw people in the street, I walk the street, talk to people, and what bothers me, especially from where I come from the Cameroons, is that they cannot clean their streets. If you cannot clean your street, how can you run the country? There's garbage everywhere in the street. If you cannot clean the street, it's something that is not rocket science.
No, of course
so but they cannot do it. And when you talk, nobody cares. Near the presidency, there's still garbage there. Nobody uses it. They give it to people. It's what they call I'm sure it's disappointing because they don't listen.
Yeah, but can we say that that is part of the part of all that is part of the way we are brought up, is part of the way we are? Because if you look at the Japanese, one of the first things that they do in the morning is to clean. Kids as young as 10 years old, when they go to school, before they start school, they clean up the school. They don't get, they clean up. Well, when they go somewhere, you've seen this in the World Cup.
We're brought up in different houses.
You see the World Cup. Yeah, they clean up the stadium. After the game, they clean up. And you wonder, why are they doing this? But because it's part of their culture, their nature, the way they bring it up. Africa has to do that as well. So if somebody starts loving his village, and you teach him as a child that this is where you belong. This is where
I was embracing.
Yeah, you raise that child loving himself and loving his village. Then this thing.
Listen, I was in Bristol near the McDonald's. I took something, I had it, I threw it, it fell on the ground. I went and put it there. There was a black lady who was surprised and congratulated me. To see it fell on the ground, I picked it and I put it inside. Because it's me, it's not about whether the way we were brought up. I know you should not throw something.
The reason why I'm saying that is that if you look at the way the Japanese bring up their kids, if the way they bring up their kids, teaching them how to cross the street, teaching them whatever they do, African cultures have all this.
I'm not too late.
Listen.
I'm not too late.
Listen. They used to teach us as a young person. When you see an elder citizen pulling a bicycle, you can't help. You don't let him pull that bicycle. When you see an elder person lifting a heavy load, you can't help. If you're 10 years, whatever age, it's still going on in my village as well. If I'm walking down the street and I see an elder lady lifting a bunch of bananas, for example, we eat a lot of bananas in Uganda, I'll probably help her lift that banana to where she's going. This is the cultural way in which we are brought up. But the Western coming in, the Western influence that came in, and the way kids are being raised nowadays, the cultures have gone. The structure of the cultures that uncles and brothers and all that, everything has disappeared. We used to live in communities, and these things used to happen. Now, to me, that is the training. From there, then you realize that, hey, we need a hospital. So when you get the money, you can easily work towards the hospital. Let's do fundraising and try and do something. So that the togetherness, as you're saying, if it comes from the time, from the village level, the village chiefs and so on, it will spring up to the leadership of the country. But if it hasn't been done well,
when you look at Japan, compare when you're employed, you're happy. When you look at the employment rate, the happiness in Japan, you can't compare with Africa. Most African people, they are thinking on what to eat. I watch a lot of these short comedies sometimes in Nigeria. When you make one thing, you go and buy food. They think about food because they don't have job, they struggle. In Japan, it's not the same thing.
Of course.
It's not the same thing. You need your happiness. If you are happy in life, you'll be happy. Sometimes you might be stressed, you don't have money to eat, and you're hungry. So I wouldn't compare Japan with Africa to me, because Japan is equal to the Western world. To me, I wouldn't do that. There are a lot of angry people.
No. The reason why I was bringing that comparison is that the traditions used to exist in Africa, and they still do. The cultural traditions are still there. The way you raise a child, it is even a saying in Africa that it's not a child is raised by a village. So that the structure, all of it comes from home. If you're a thief, maybe your son will be a thief or something. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe we need to go back to the school level and start retraining everything and bring in programs that will put us back to where everything came from. Maybe these changes will happen.
I used to see Thomas Sankara, he goes to school. I say, la corruption, they all talking in front of primary school children. How many African leaders, how many of them do they do? They don't do it. You don't see them. They don't go anywhere. They don't talk to the people. They don't meet the people. If you ask an average African leader and an impromptu interview, what are your functions? They don't know. They don't know that they have to maintain law and order, to enforce law order. They don't know. People stay in detention in a prison for waiting trial 5 years or whatsoever. So in Africa, to be honest, if some of my friends tell me that you cannot live in this country when I go there, because it is not the best place place on earth was Boya when I was growing up. It was beautiful, quiet. As you say, everybody was everybody's keeper. But it's not the same place anymore. You used to respect your elders. It's a different country. People are rude. I used to be against what you call the upper class, the middle class, the working class. But I've realized that you need those things to make society to progress. Because if everyone, I go and study, I think I have PhD, you don't learn morals in school. It comes from your home. So everybody think when I go and study, I'm a lawyer, I'm a this, you're rude to people. People have lost that moral compass.
Yeah.
So at times, you run away from your own people.
The question now, how do we bring them back? How do we get those moral values back? And how do we get, because it's one thing criticizing it, but it's another thing trying to see that you bring it back, because it has to start somewhere. Now, you're a leader of a party. Part of your policies would be, as a manifesto, this could be the key thing that you put ahead in your manifesto, and said, the first thing that we've got to do is to go to schools and begin education. It will take years to come back, but the fruits will come in, because if it starts with you, then Cameroon is going to be
Africans are the most educated person in quotes, but maybe the wrong education. Yes. Because I can sit here right now. Yeah. I go to YouTube. I will learn how to make chocolate for less than 1 hour. And you spend 5 years, 6 years studying something that is useless in Africa. And I will tell you, I was never taught Cameroon history, but I was taught about Napoleon Bonaparte, English history, all those things. What for? We are running away from our own history. I want to learn about the Shaka Zulus. I want to learn about other people, heroes in Africa. But they do it deliberately. And I know English history, European history, world affairs, more than the Western people. So it's the curriculum that was aimed to enslave us. Who discovered River Nile? Momo Park. What about the people who used to work better? So you see, one of my friends who is in Cameroon, I used to say discover Wapping in London. So because people just come and say fake history, and they'll come. But people who cannot govern themselves, who told you that they cannot govern themselves? So, and we as Africans, or whether intellectuals or thinkers, we should rewrite our history. People should not be calling us what we don't want. We should decide if we want to call Atlantic Ocean African Ocean. They shouldn't be telling us. We should do our own things. We just believe in what these people have put in us. I'm not saying it's bad. They have their own good part, but they have national interests. The Prime Minister of this UK or the American president, they work for the interests of their own country. Of course. Africans should start working in the interests of their own country. That's what I'm saying.
Listen, I'm 100% with you. But my belief is that everything has to have a beginning. Now, the beginning could be with you, it could be with me, it could be with anybody else. It has to have a beginning, because when you're an example and others are seeing, that's what I was saying, look, in your manifesto, as a party leader, your manifesto, this should be the top of your manifesto before you even do anything else, that the moral values that Africa have, we have to bring them back, because everything comes from the values. As I've said with the Japanese, the values, even the Chinese, by the way. Mao Zedong wrote a very, very good book about the values about life. And almost every Chinese child who is born and raised in China reads about Mao Zedong. The man died nearly 20, 40 years ago, but he left a structure. Even now, there are billionaires in China, but they all read the structure of what Mao Zedong wrote about individualism. And in Africa, we call it Ubuntu, actually. Ubuntu, which really means you and me and I. You and me are the same. So if you have that structure with you, if I take 10 billion from the government, I'll be damaging the economy, and I'll be damaging you in a way that if you get sick, I'll go on a plane because I have the billions, and you're there. But what I'm saying is that beginning, that step to begin all this, we all know what is wrong. But how do we correct what is wrong? Where do we start from?
That's the key. To me, it starts from, as President Obama said, be the change you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I sit, I talk in public.
Yeah.
I'll tell everybody in the whole world, if you know one bad thing in my life that I've ever done, I'm free. A lot of people cannot say what I'm saying. I will tell you that as a young boy, I grew up, I saw the political party in Cameroon. There was no manifesto, nothing. I've never joined any political party in Cameroon. That's why I have always been as an activist, because I have to read and know if something is good before I join. People just join things blindly, they follow the wind. I always say, those who follow the crowd do not go further than the crowd. That's what I say. People think when you're the majority or what, like the Anglophone problem when it started, I understand how the modus operandi of the government of Cameroon. I have said, Mr. Biya is the symptoms. France, the de facto president, is the cancer, is the disease. I said this long ago, but they don't know. I said, La Republic of Cameroon is not independent. We have to fight for their own independence in order to solve the Anglophone problem. Because, in Mr. Biya's own words, he will tell you after the national dialogue, I'm going to give an account to President Macron. He said that I am the best student of François Mitterrand. He's telling you he's not the president, he's a governor. And people listen to those things, they don't even know what he's saying. When they brought the so-called decentralization in the Cameroons, it was the French president who said it. When my lecturer, a leader of opposition, Mr. Maurice Kamto, was arrested, it was Mr. Macron who gave order in live TV that they should release him. It's not Mr. Biya. So you cannot be asking independence of somebody who hasn't got power even to give you federalism. So those are the things people don't know, because you are only as good as the information that you have. And that's it. Most people don't know. They think sometimes, and you waste your time. As I said before, when I was a teenager, we go about signing things for the former vice president, prime minister to take to the UN about the Anglophone problem. I was a teenager. Then people in 2016 are repeating the things that we did again. So it's waste of time. So you're recycling, doing the same thing and expecting different results. My point, it is clear, the constitution of Cameroon says you can create a party. The people who joined the French Cameroon, they did it through political party. Then there was a plebiscite, they joined. And we can reverse that and bring back equal status that two countries came together. And if you are not in power, if you're not in a position as an MP or what, who have given you that mandate? So you cannot impose. If I'm an MP today, I can say the people have given me mandate. I'm fighting that we want equal status. We want a parliament in the English part of Cameroon where we can debate our own educational system, our own judiciary, and other things. We have elected. There's something.
So the Amazonians don't have the mandate. They don't have the mandate from the people from those countries.
How do you have a mandate? It's something they elect you. Okay, I'll give you an example. The Scottish National Party. Is it everyone, all the Scottish people, do they support it?
No.
Okay, in Cameroon, we have members of parliament who are in the ruling party. So if you have a country today, will you ask those people to leave the country? That's a mistake. Everybody is not an Amazonian. You should respect the opinion of other people. That's how civilization, that's the English culture. The way they behave, they don't behave like the culture you see in this country. There are people in Scotland that they like want independence, they don't want it. If it happens, all of them, they will go back. They don't stand and kill the people that they are black legs, they are this. If I don't belong to your organization, I cannot be a black leg because I've never yielded to it. So we are making a mistake. You will say this one is a federalist. If you ask a lot of people from Amazonia, what's your educational policy? What's your police? What's your taxation? They don't have it. If they give you independence today, what happened? There will be a war, civil war. But if you go and give Scotland independence today, it will continue as...
No, but look at it this way. I was looking at the issue of Amazonia and the issue of Sudan. The similarities between the two. Because even when I was discussing it here with Marita, the issue of Southern Sudan and Northern Sudan, and the issue of, because when you look at it, Southern Sudan had, of course...
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It's very important.
The English side.
I don't want to interrupt. It's very important. The question is Amazonia, who is in Amazonia?
Okay.
Let me tell you why. You're supposed to ask the question. Let me tell you why. From Godi Dinka, a landed lawyer, whom I respect very much. is the founder of Ambazonia in 1984.
Okay.
So some people have something they call Federal Republic of Ambazonia. They don't know they have breach of intellectual property. That's the thing. I'm somebody I deal with things in a legal way.
Yeah.
You cannot take from Godi thinkers, they don't have British Cameroon National Party. You cannot use my name. So who gave them that authority to use? It's in this country. The children, they are my friend. I talk with them. It's called Republic of Ambazonia. He was a one-man protest in 1984. He's a lawyer, very experienced. He told Mr. Bia, you have changed the name United Republic of Cameroon, you have seceded. So it's Bia who have separated. That's his point.
That's his point.
So you people have used somebody's name, which if you want to be a leader, you have to lead by example. You don't steal somebody's name and hijack it. Then you think it is right. In a country where the law and order, you will be dealt with. So that's the problem. I respect from Godidinka. When you say Ambazonia about him, I support him. I stand shoulder to shoulder with from Godidinka. But when the other people you call them, they are hijackers. And to me, I'll say it on your program, they are criminals.
They're criminals.
I have things that they're scammers. I have things. I have it there, the checks and this, that, I can bring it on your program. I respect from Godidinka. I support him. I stand shoulder to shoulder. He is non-violent. He doesn't go and kill our children and stop school, which is war crime. I support him. If that's the Ambazonia you're talking about from Godidinka, I'm supporting him. Anything outside there is not Ambazonia. It's people who have plagiarized the intellectual property of from Godidinka.
Okay, let me put it this way. Northern Cameroon and Southern Cameroon. The English-speaking Southern Cameroon and the Northern Cameroon, the French-speaking Northern Cameroon.
French is east, is like
east, the Republic. The fact that the two languages it's like two countries in one. We came together and came to be one.
Federal Republic.
Of Cameroon. Now, the structures of the countries, the two countries, definitely haven't worked. A lot has not worked because of the disagreements here and there. Similarly to what happened in South Sudan and North Sudan. Religion was a major part. The Muslims and the Christians in the south. And in the end, the country split and you have what we call Southern Sudan and Northern Sudan. Now, I was trying to put the two of those and saying, look, this could be an issue because of the two, one English and one French. The two countries, because of the two, the major hasn't worked. Can there be a way in which we said, okay, if the major hasn't worked, can we both move our separate ways, the way South Sudan did? Because they had to do it the hard way.
It was the US and other people, a senior person, journalist from Cameroon, once told me about him. He's versed with South Sudan. He told me it was the US who decided that they should separate them because of
No, but even the listen, I come from Uganda, and I could see Sudanese in my country, and we were seeing what was going on in Sudan. They couldn't, the money wasn't going into Southern. About Sudan, trust me, I can talk about it. Listen, the southern part of the country, I visited it even before the separation, and we could see they get oil from that country. Nothing was happening in Cameroon.
The problem in Cameroon is not because it did not work. The plan was to assimilate, to annex. I'm quoting the former vice president of Cameroon, Jongu Foncha. He's there on YouTube. We were annexed. He said they never agreed with President Amadou Ahidjo. They never agreed that the gendarmes should cross and come to this side. We live in the UK. A Manchester police officer have got nothing to do with London. But they went now, it was annexation. They crossed the borders. There was nothing wrong. We live as brothers and sisters in the Cameroon. Then the gendarme stays in the French part. It's about policing. Then the police stays in this part. But the fun is, as I'm telling you, all the institutions, can you imagine the money in Cameroon? I don't know whether they have changed it. It's only French, there's no English here. So you treat people as if they are second-class citizens. Then you cannot aspire to be anything in the country. When I was in the university in Cameroon, the government delegate who was like a mayor in the capital of Yaoundé, he said, the English speaking, they are enemy down and his own enemies in the house, snakes in the house. Then Mr. Biya did nothing. And he told us Biafrans. I was there.
Yeah,
I wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
So you live in your own country, they call you Biafrans. Allez chez vous, go to your own place. So at the end of the day, it's that weak leadership. Until today, people still use hate crime. Then they come and say, oh, don't use hate crime. Hate crime is a criminal offense in Cameroon, but nobody is persecuted. A governor who is French-speaking origin called the Anglophones, the English-speaking Cameroon, and they are dogs. They don't do anything. That's what happened in Rwanda. If you have a president, they don't sanction them. So that's the problem, the problem is the leadership.
Okay.
You don't punish people, no meritocracy, nepotism. I don't get, it's a matter of principle. I don't care who is in power insofar as you're doing your job good. We have somebody called Atanganji, he's the Minister of Territorial Administration. When you talk, they say, oh, they have given you English-speaking a minister. I said, no, he's a minister for the country. He's not a minister for Anglophone. So the way they run the country, I see people who don't know how to run the country. That's the problem. All they do is to please their master, France. And that's why I'm saying I'm happy, because I've been campaigning, talking about France, Afrique. I'm happy now that it's open. And insofar as so many countries they talk about it, they will not kill Thomas Sankara alone. So let more people talk about France, Afrique. Anti-sentiment, I don't mind it, because these people are evil. They don't put anything, they just take and take and take.
You are like the French.
That's what they do. They take and take and take. So I'm happy that a lot of people are talking about it now. A lot of people, we never used to talk. When you talk alone, they kill you.
They kill you,
But now, if all of us were talking, they cannot kill all of us.
They, of course, they definitely can. They can't kill all of you because of that. The thing is, we're coming towards the end of the program. How do you see the future now of not just of the French-speaking countries, but the whole of the African continent, in view of what we've discussed here? Because what affects Northern Cameroon affects Southern Cameroon, affects Nigeria, affects Ghana, affects, how do you see the future of Africa? Do we see in 20 years' time that there could be a change with this, or if nothing happens, we're going to be like this for the next 100 years? With the next
President Obama once said,
with the next generation?
President Obama once said, with the advent of the internet, these people, they cannot get away with it. So things have changed now, because we can all talk, whether it's good talk or bad talk. And I believe people will try, most African leaders would like to lead by example, because it's a shame that sometimes when I look at Africa, I used to say even those dictators in those days, Mobutu, they were better, they used to talk. This one, they don't even talk. They don't talk like China. They run like dogs. They say America, Commonwealth, Francophonie, they go there. But I say those dictators, they used to talk. At least I used to see Mugabe, that Gordon Brown, you're just a dot. At least even if they were dictators, but this one who are so-called Democrats, they don't talk. Ruto is trying, the other South African man, they are trying, but they are president. I don't want them to try. Me, I should try. I'm not in power. They should take their responsibility and lead. And they should be ready to die for the people of Africa. The people like Mandela, Sabokwe, all those people, they have worked hard, they risked their life. Now, our president, insofar as they are behind their people, let your people protect you, not gone. People say we have democracy. I will call my way, we have gonocracy. God protect us. That's what protects the leaders. It's not the people. So if the people look at the military, okay, fine, they're having some pleasure now to stand in the street, people. It's a joy, although I don't want the military rule. But can those our leaders, I will not call their name, whether I will call them can we say anybody walk the street? They can't walk the streets. Look at the young guy in Burkina Faso. Yes, my point is, let them change things and hand over things. But look how popular he goes in the street. You have joy.
But that's a short-lived joy.
I know.
It's not going to last forever. At some point, they will start hiding.
They hand power very fast. Get that your joy. He's a young man. He has done brilliant, made the speech. Make sure hand everything. If everything happens, it's none of your business. You have done your own. So which is good. That's why I say. And again, if things goes back, they might want you to come back.
exactly.
So that's what you do.
I mean, Rollins did that. I always give Rollins as an example because he went, he came back, he went, he came back. But then at the end of the day, he set up what Ghana is going through today because it's because of him, because the other military rulers were there, but they didn't know what to do. They were just, so we unless we get a person of Rollins' caliber in other parts of Africa, in Cameroon, in Ghana, not in Ghana, of course, but in Cameroon, maybe in Uganda, or maybe in Tanzania, in any of these other persons who has that kind of caliber.
George Washington, they make a constitution and they left.
Yeah, and they left the constitution.
Yeah, and other people come, they don't change in terms of office.
No, you don't do that. You don't do that. That's where the biggest problem is.
Because we don't need every time when there's a coup, we have dissolved all institutions, we start again from square one. Because you say, where do we start? We always restart in Africa. Dissolve in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Gabon. Then we make what? Charter. We sit in a room with a cup of tea and draft something without consulting the people.
The next thing is we're probably going to get what's going on in Sudan, because when you look at the generals who are fighting in northern Sudan at the moment, in Sudan, it's really bad, because they had the same ambition, they have the same thing, but the way they're fighting, it's really a big shame, because it's a question of sitting down and agreeing to that, and then we see how it goes.
Mandela said that example. That's why he stayed there for 1 term. Because most people think you must be in power to be a strong man, and that's why I don't like that word in Africa when we say, this strong man, you're stronger than who?
I just want to say thank you very, very much for coming here.
It's a pleasure.
It's been a big pleasure in the sense that we've liked the ideas. I'm sure most of my listeners will like the idea, because the ideas are good. The only big problem would be the implementation of those ideas.
I'm already implementing with my way of life, my style of life, my sterling quality. I lead by example, free from corruption, free from working from corrupt government, and I think there's a hope, and I want to be that change.
Then you need to campaign in Cameroon and be the next president of Cameroon, and then
I will see if there's no good candidate there. There's nothing wrong. All you need is a birth certificate to be the next president of Cameroon.
Okay.
I presume, with my knowledge and the experience I had in Cameroon as a student in university, with my lord and doing as a member of a political party in this country, I've got that experience, I've got that momentum.
Call me to be your campaign manager, and I'll help out. Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
I just want to say thank you very much for being with us on today's program, and I do hope that we'll be together again for next week for another edition of Africa Speaks. Thank you, and may God bless you all.